Good morning, good afternoon. Back in the crib. The crib is basically the place of rebirth, where each and every one of us, spiritual travelers, find themselves to be made anew and to be reborn into the purpose that one finds within themselves. This is the spiritual journey of enlightenment. See where you are, accept it, see or feel where you want to be, or also feel where you are, because sometimes I don't know where I am. Am I inside a woman? Is that the womb of creation? Am I being reborn to be with a certain someone? Already at the age of 3 or 4, when I was in kindergarten, I was looking for a woman. And it may be that I have yet to find her, or I have found her already. That I will just set aside and then let my feeling decide whenever I see or meet a woman, is this the woman I've been looking for, or have I really found her already? Because whatever we feel seems kind of unreal until it actually is right in your face and is riding you like you're the only horse she'll ever ride. That's just what I would like to start with. In the meantime, I've been busy creating like a madman. And I've gone through transformation after transformation after transformation until I no longer knew who I was. I'm kind of stuck in Germany. And I may be stuck here for a long time. I cannot say. I have all these hopes and wishes and I would like to get away. To be honest, wearing this with this high collar, I don't know, this morning I woke up, I actually felt good. And then I felt like a pussy. But I still felt good. It was just weird to feel this feminine side inside of me. And, when I wanted to change that, I smoked a cigarette and then I started feeling sick. But I also felt more, I felt like something about masculinity. And then the question is, of course, do I need to smoke to feel masculine? Or could I just walk barefoot in the snow? If I wanted that. Without the intent of injuring myself, but with the intent of cleansing my body and strengthening it for what is to come. I'm currently writing Mentality of a Warrior. I'm 95 pages in. That's not just text, but it is fairly a lot of text. And at the same time I've been working here, I've been also working on my concepts of food and how much food I need. As long as I keep myself busy, it's okay to not eat. Well, but the body needs something, or so I think. Well, now I ran out of cigarettes. I have no idea what is happening with my account. I'm being kept busy. It seems like tomorrow I'm going to leave the house, like really leave it for some time, for the first time in what seems to be ages. I just started rendering videos again. And I wanted to give you some kind of a tour. Because it may not look different to you, but it does to me. And I always feel a bit shy because I actually didn't want to show this to anyone anymore. And please never consider me your friend, because what I feel is that between men there are no friends. Because if we think about, what's the small scale tribe these days, it's your own family. And it's then probably your wife and your child or your children. And what I've seen is that, if you see small scale tribes in the park or wherever, other men come and take a piss on it. And then they start hitting on your wife. Then I think, what the fuck are you doing here? I mean, this is just like things that come up in my mind. Things I want to be conscious of when they happen. And of course, the same thing can happen with women. Women can hit on your wife, and women can hit on the husband. The question is, are you aware that this is happening, and how far do you want to go with this? Now, the trouble I had this morning was that I woke up, I felt like a pussy for whatever reason, and I had this plan that I wanted to make a curtain, because now we're approaching winter and I'm separating my rooms, and for that I have some kind of fabric that I want to cut. And I just had to get into the right kind of mentality so that I don't make this space into some kind of, I don't want this to be the place of some kind of gay, creative man. So I have to change how I see myself and how I present myself all the time. Myself. And that's true, because I have different selves. And there's probably a version of myself that's gentle and kind and laid back. But then there's also the version of myself that needs to get shit done, that has the mind of a warrior, and that never forgets that we are being, ruled by angry men, because these men want war. And if they don't wage war themselves, they assist others to do so by sending them weapons and tanks and, war machines. I don't know, I just like to change that, which is why I had to work on my ability to say no and to stay strong and also to be alone, so that I start being less dependent. So that if, whatever happens, I have the guts to say, because Germany has a history. Every country has a history, but the German history that everybody likes to rub under our faces just to see if we still feel at least a bit ashamed, ashamed enough to pay off our debt with money. Why don't you learn a bit of humanity, and instead of trying to shame us into doing what we've done, because the whole world saw it and they all let it happen, right? The whole world saw what Germany was doing and they let it happen. So that's just a bit of shame back into whoever wants to shame Germany. I'm not really identifying with Germany. I just happen to be here. So maybe that makes me a German. I don't know. Maybe being a German comes with a bit of pride and not just with shame. And, it's actually hard to say if I could ever leave here and feel good about it, because who am I or what am I leaving behind? Does making English content turn me into someone who needs to live somewhere else? Well, I do see things that I want, but now I have a problem. Because I'm turning this place into a real home where I feel comfortable, where I like to be, where I could even imagine spending my whole life. I mean, that's coming from the idea of having grown up into a house. I mean, I was born into a house. And now I'm living in an apartment. Is that a step back or a, step forward? Because we never know what's coming, what's around the corner, whose house is it, right? What's gonna happen? Is society gonna last? Can we outgrow this depression? And then where should this depression grow into? There's a video called something with potential and depression. Yeah. And it's also in the book Crazy Wisdom, because it was originally a story. I think it's in that book. If not the first, it's probably one of the later versions, not the first one. The first one is what I have or had on my website, hard to say at this stage. Anyway, so I'm going to show you this. This is what I did. I collected these already a month ago. And I used, these wooden things that you use to make food, where you put food on and then you can grill it. It's like these wooden spiky sticks that are about 2 to 3 millimeters in circumference. And okay, I'll also put this around this. I'm not sure why, it just was a feeling I had. Here you can see it a bit better. So I didn't have nails, and I like the idea of putting wood in the walls better because it's more, I don't know, some kind of natural material. And I hammered it in with tongues like these. Yeah, I'm going to show you. I don't know all the words. And this is then my way of expressing myself. This stick, I'm just going to say it's from a friend. And, these things just help me to transform and hold the energy, by giving the walls something. And it's also if I'm alone in here and everything I see is just white walls, it's really easy to feel depressed. It's really hard to feel depressed if you have nice things that attract your attention, that make you feel at home because you've done it yourself. And what's it matter? If other people would see this, they may say something about it. They may say, what is this? It's not in order, right? Yeah, of course, because nature is not in order. I mean, this is just my feminine side. So something else I did, I hung up this so I can, if visitors come, because this is my private domain, it doesn't matter if you've seen it. So I hang it up like this, and then if visitors come, voila. And I can also do this if I'm in here working, right? I can say, leave me alone. Or at least if you come in, right? Don't make a fuzz. This is again like that. Okay, I'm just gonna keep it shut because I also have the heater on and I'm very conscious about preservation. Okay, now we are already in the next room. And first of all, what you can see is I've cleaned. Well, there's still some things. This is laundry that I'm going to do. I just took the things that I had, I just put them on top. I've been feeding my plants sometimes some old tea that was cold already, some eggshells. I don't know, right? I'm just experimenting. I want to see what helps these plants to be. And then I took some shirts, the same ones I used to make these. Just cutting them up, putting them together. And I did the same thing with this. This is more for summer. In summer, right? This is more for summer. And I still think, I would probably put a few more. But this I also would like to move here so that I have in between. That's then my, because I do not heat the kitchen. At least not yet. I think I will not heat it. Okay, let's go into the kitchen. You know, I've done the same thing here. The same principle. I made the hole with just something from my multi-tool. You know, it doesn't really matter. This is what I use to hammer these things in. And so I was just looking, you see this looks really tilted. I mean, you may not see it. I love it. I actually thought I would make my own kuripe, which is a tool for rapé with it, but I did not yet, at least. And maybe I gave it up entirely, who's to say? You know, I cannot say. So many things I cannot say. Fly, go away. Okay, and these are all natural fabrics. This is also, it's not just random. I mean, I put this there for a reason. Because I wanted something natural, you know, wooden. And I was still thinking of making a table. And I actually started to think, you know, I could have a table where you can stand on. But I'm not super sure about this. This is something that I started because I want to put the camera here so that I can work on my dream kitchen. So I'm planning ahead. And it took me probably... okay, now I feel uncomfortable because the attention is back on myself. And sometimes I don't like it. I've been piling up a lot of these for whatever purpose. And I've been thinking a lot about how to proceed. What to do, when to do it, how often to do it. Because between thinking, you know, maybe I should make music, and thinking about what other content to make, and thinking about my art, right? And then thinking about writing books. You know, I also have to feed myself. And to me, when I cook, right, I often come up with nice ideas. So I want to start to film it. But the best way for me to film it is if I don't have the camera on me, but if I can just fix it in place here. And I'm still, you know, I have this thing that you can glue on there, but this has to have the right shape. So I'm thinking of hammering it, but, you know, you'll see. You know, once this comes out, I'm already further away. Which is, of course, the idea. So that I'm always one step ahead, right? Whoever looks at my content right now will have no idea what I'm doing at the moment. Because I'm living in the future. Right? What you can see is a remnant of the past. You know, this guy is already over. You know, all the insecurities that he had, all these ideas of how he should be, you know, he's already changed. Which gives you no reason to be stuck. You know what I mean? Because that's the message. You gotta keep going, and that is incredibly hard. Harder than anything else. You know, spirituality is a set of methods. You know, if you look in the Indian whatever, you know, it's about letting go and moving on. And there are methods other than just smoking weed, which keeps you trapped. You know, there are methods such as, you know, breath work. And I haven't got down to doing that yet. Simply because I haven't gotten down to doing that yet. And now I'm just going to show you how I used to have this. Okay. Sometimes not sure how to place the camera. I'm just going to do it like this. I'm just going to set it up so, right, you can already see what I'm doing. Yeah, I like to have, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Nice, I love it. It brings in the color. It keeps this room from kind of fading away. These I received from my mother. I was really reluctant to take them because I thought, why don't you use them? But after I asked her several times, she kind of said, yeah, I mean, I don't use them. So the way I used to have it was just hanging like this. I mean, from the inside then, it doesn't really matter. And I'm actually sad to cut it up. But what annoyed me was that, you know, if it's just like this, every time I go through here, I have to kind of, you know, it's, to me, you know, I cannot just walk through it. I have to do like this. And so I thought, okay, if I would cut it up in the middle and then just stitch it together, it's like a curtain, you know, I can just walk through the middle. But that's just something I've been thinking about. And now that I talk about it, I'm still not sure, because you think it's such a nice fabric. And then you think about, but you know, should I just fold it in the middle? But then I would also lose a lot. I mean, actually I only need half. Right? So if you take half and you cut half and, you know, or I just leave it like this. Because I really don't want to cut this up. I mean, of course, who cares? I mean, does it really matter? See, I'm so uncertain. I don't want to cut this up, and I don't even know why. Because it's also, I don't know, is it a form of appreciation? I don't think she would care. I mean, did I ask my dad whether I was allowed to cut up his shirts? I mean, she gave it away. She said, I will never use this. And I thought, why will you never use this? And then, of course, the other question is, and if I turn this into this curtain, how long am I going to live here? You know, am I going to live here? For how long am I going to live here? There was, you know, I had this moment where I thought, I'm just going to tear it all out again. You know, that's the uncertainties I am facing. Not sure if I'm going to stay here. You know, not just because I don't want to, but because I feel like I need to leave. So how at home do I want to feel here? Because, you know, what's the mentality of a warrior? I'm actually not sure anymore. You know, who am I supposed to be? How am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? When I put these curtains, I actually felt good about it. Recently, I've been starting to think they look kind of gay. And now I'm asking myself, why do I think that? You know, is it gay to do this? Because when I did it, I liked it. And then you think, why did she give it to me? Right? Why did she give it to me? You know, she offered them, I declined them, and then I came back to it and I said, can I have them? And then you think, why? Can she not use them herself? And then I just don't understand. But if she would have wanted to use it, you know, I'm sure she would have. And maybe I'm just afraid to screw things up in whatever way. And that's just what you have to work with. Insecurities are a bitch. You know, for the moment I'm here, and let's face it, you know, I may have the feeling I will leave. But let's say I will only leave in 2 years' time. You know, it's possible. Because from where I'm standing, I may have had visions of my life, but when are they going to come? Because, I'm 34, about to turn 35, and although time is relative, it does exist. Which means then to me, how long am I to stretch this out? Maybe I will only go to Amsterdam in 10 years' time. And maybe in 5, right? Because the call that I think, is gonna come any second now is never gonna come. Or so I feel. And I also have the feeling that if I would go somewhere else, I would have wanted to do that with my wife. And now I'm just gonna see, what I want to do here. So this is also about letting go. Somebody said you can have it, Now why do you feel bad about doing what you want to do with it? Because if she would have wanted to keep it, sometimes we just think, it's like you fall in love with someone and you ask them, do you want to marry me? And then what? You just assume, yeah, I'm sure she loves me. Or you just want her to love you. But she actually doesn't do that. She actually doesn't love you. And she has never loved you. And that's a very hard thing to realize. Now, what's gay? What image do we have of men? And that to me is a very important point. What is the image that we have of men? How am I supposed to be as a man? I know I could never be gay simply because I want to be with a woman and I want to have my own family. But suddenly I feel gay and I don't know why. I just woke up with this feeling that I'm gay. I think it's just that image that I have of men, with shaved heads, the classic warrior that we think is like the jarhead. But if you look at indigenous tribes, then men also there are men that do weaving. And what I realize is I'm not like other men. I'm more gentle. I'm wild, but I'm also gentle. And, I know how to work with my inner child. I know how to work with my inner child. And because I know how to work with my inner child, and I'm usually not afraid to show it, I can make better choices than someone he thinks he has to be like everyone else. It's like, I keep a clean shave because that's what expected of me in society. And I wear the clothes, that everybody else wears. Maybe I'll have a really awesome tie. Okay, that's then the kind of freedom that you allow yourself to have. And now that I talk about it, I finally get a footing or a hold of myself again. The self that went to Africa, that liked being there. Because what you always have to look back at is your own upbringing. Who raised you? And who raised you? Well, that's a good question. And I've got some solid ideas for how to appear. Before I leave the house, I always make sure I carry the right gear and I wear the right clothes to represent what I feel during that time. Now, this, if you think of Gandhi, he made his own clothes. Was he weak? Well, look at what he did. I mean, he had no hair except for I think he had a mustache, right? Now, was he weak? Well, there was certainly some form of masculinity that I felt was missing in him as an idol, but he certainly had a certain strength of mind. And all these ideas he had, I mean, the only thing I know about Gandhi is taken from, not the only thing, is taken from the movie, which of course is a distortion, because you can never capture the true spirit of someone. Like, you cannot capture how somebody makes you feel. If people would have filmed Maharaji, which used to be or is or was or whatever, everything happens at the same time here, right? But I choose to be here for some reason. And if they would have filmed Maharaji and Ramdas would have sat there and he would have, shown movies about Maharaji and talked about him, nobody would have understood, the feeling he gave to people. And when I'm alone in my room, I tend to forget even how I feel about myself. Because, it must be that I'm gay because I'm still alone in here, And maybe it's just that people think that I'm gay. Maybe it's just projection from others, right? They look at me and they think, I don't think I can follow you. You're probably gay. Just like, who even says that? That's your fear of being gay yourself. Because, I've already asked myself the question, am I actually gay? But I find nothing attractive in men. I like women because they're round and they're soft. I mean, okay, there are women who are more scrawny than others. And that's then just the question you have to ask yourself. And maybe the reason I feel gay today is because, I haven't really done any workout. I haven't really left the house, and that just turns you into a pussy. Because what really turns you into a man is being one with nature and exposing yourself to it. But at the same time, maybe I realized it's time to be gentle with myself and to stop hanging out with men that, I don't know. Am I to have friends? Do I have friends already? Because I'm not sure. There are a lot of things that I do that most people would find weird or disgusting, which is like, I don't brush my teeth, which means that, if I have a lot of food in here, it just comes out, because I don't hide the truth. And the truth is, yes, there is a part of me that feels gay. And the question is, why? And do I want to keep it that way? Because I can still make a choice. Because I'm still not sure. I think the reason that I feel gay is because I started to open up to my feminine side. And now I'm doing these things which normally a woman would do. But at the same time, if there would be a woman in here and she would do these things, I mean, no wonder people feel gay. And no wonder, I don't know, right? I mean, is this too much comfort? Who is supposed to feel comfortable in here? Is this really me? And why did I start doing crochet in these things in the first place? So, I still don't know. But what I know is that in the world of spirituality, we have a term that's called duality, which means I have a feminine side, I have a male side. And we all have that. And if I'm trying to be a man, but I'm only the masculine side, I'm going to try to probably destroy my children. But I can also be too soft. When you see me sitting here, it's probably just my own perspective that I feel gay. But I also do my own laundry. I wash my own clothes. I cook my own food. That's just taking care of yourself. And part of taking care of yourself is making your apartment homely. Not for others, not for visitors, but for yourself, so that you feel comfortable in here. And it's just really weird, because it feels so feminine. And then you can say, well, maybe it's, maybe there's a woman coming for you that will make you feel like a man. Well, suppose that was true. Would I want to let her do this? Or would I just want to take responsibility and just do it myself? And these are all very good questions. Probably for someone else, because in a way I've already decided that I'm going to stay until I feel ready to leave. And that is in terms of, just thinking about what I've all done. I've done a lot of crazy shit just to be with a woman or to find a woman that wants to be with me. Until I realized, what is a better approach? Just show who you are and wait for a woman to want to be with you. And that's just what I think or believe in, that there is no, okay, if you manage to find one and then just be with her, all right. But how often has that happened? I don't know, I'm sick of waiting for someone to come here. I'm sick of waiting for someone to come here. Because nobody ever came. And if I spend my days waiting for someone to come, then I'm stuck on waiting. I just hate that. It's like filming this. I could change the perspective of the camera all the time. I could look at myself in this way or in that way, and because I'm filming myself and I'm exposing myself to the public, why is this not working the way that I think it could? I could think, what do other people think of me? Will they like what I'm doing? It's irrelevant, my friend. Because, if somebody doesn't like what you're doing, they probably don't like what they are doing. And that's then very bad advice, from people who don't know what they want. Because if I know what I want, and I like doing things with my hands, and there's no woman around that I can massage and, cuddle with, I'm just gonna do this. And then I'll just fake having a woman in here, I just carry her in my heart and hope that she will manifest one day, in whatever form pleases her. And that's then the question, because I always meet women and then I think, oh, it's her, it has to be her. Oh, it has to be her. No, it has to be you. Because if it's her, then you're just trying to worship someone that may not deserve being worshipped in such a way. Because the women I encountered on my travels, they were just taking me for granted. Granted, right? I learned something by watching Rick and Morty. I also learned that, I can laugh about the blood, but the question is why? Does there have to be so much blood in this show? Now I'm at a loss. So I want to have this really, really straight. It's nice fabric. Still think it's a shame to tear it apart. But I think that's just part of life. Sometimes you have to dissect yourself, which sounds weird, but I find it perfectly true. That sometimes I had to dissect myself to see what I have in myself, And I don't do this with a scalpel. I do this with my mind. Because the mind's eye can literally dissect lies. And I'm still trying to figure out what other people really mean when they spend time with me. And also, what is my place in all of this? This is really hard. Harder than it looks. Really hard. Okay, now I'm just going to push this through simply by refusing to give up. Okay, now I want to say my own lies. Right, there will be a woman at some point. And maybe that's fabrication. And I have to then live with that. I'm going to start from this side. So now I'm just going to sit on it. Okay, now it's done. Not yet, but because I'm just so sick of waiting. Really sick of waiting for other people to give me the life that I want. Because in the end, I made the choices that led me here. And I chose to share the contents of myself with the world. And the stages or the phases that I go through. Because if I just see this as a phase, then I also know, oh my God, it will never last. Whatever I do, this is just a phase. I'm 30 something. And I've had friends and we got along with each other, or one, and he was doing always this kind of stuff. He was always working, being busy with things, and he was still tough. You could go hiking with him for several days. And the question is, And we were never really gay. We did not like to cuddle, we didn't lean on each other, and we did sleep together in tents and, during cold nights, and it did not, oh God, now I have to cut it up in half again. And we did not, we spent nights without a tent also, sleeping in the open at freezing temperatures. And it never occurred to me, at least, and he also never came closer than just being a friend. And I think that's just the way it is. You just have to understand the meaning of friends, maybe. I still think it may have been a mistake. May have been a mistake. I should have never done this. Now it's broken. And now which side am I supposed to be? It's just, what's the point of being so insecure all the time? There is no point. You want to do something, then do it. Of course, I could also take this. And instead of cutting it up again, I could just do like this. I watched, I'm just gonna do that instead. Because I feel like it's better. So I can use it for something else at a later stage. I think it's better because it also looks nice from both sides then. Because if I had it like this, it looks nice from there, but from here, not really. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh my God, why do I have to be so insecure? Plus, if you do it double, you can say it keeps more heat or something. I'm just gonna go through with this. For whatever reason. I also started working on a pair of trousers, but I haven't gotten down to doing that yet. Okay, I never really think that I have to do this until I'm doing it. It's not what I wanted to say, what I want to say. Slipped my mind. I don't know, I think doing it like this is nice. And I'm just getting sick of you see, now is also how am I supposed to do this now? Right? Maybe I'll just put it over it, and without making too much of a fuss, I'll just stitch it together and say whatever. Or I make it like really perfect. But then lose more fabric. I think it's okay if I just stitch it together like this. And then I also don't feel as gay as I would if I would do it different. Because I also like to do things in a simple way, which clearly shows how I did the curtains. This is just a symbol of, okay, but of course, no. Why is it so hard to choose how to do this? because you start, right? And that's the same thing with my YouTube channel. You start and you're not sure yet how it's going to be. Fuck. But yeah, never give up. No, I thought about I could use this for something else, right? I could use this for this. For, you know, because the door is always open. But I think I just like it that way, for whatever reason. For whatever reason, who cares? It's just an honest attempt. Oh wow. Yeah, also now, which colors am I going to use? Colors? Black and white? I see colors. It just feels like an overload, like a complete overload. Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with the black and the white. Because then it symbolizes duality for me. Right, it just symbolizes duality. And then it doesn't feel so pussy. And now you can just... So black and white, yoga is dancing with your shadow, and a husband needs a wife. And I'm past the stage where I have to sleep with every woman that I meet, because it's always an option. Sex is always an option to some people. But, you know, it's also an option to simply not have sex. But I do feel that, you know, there seem to be certain drawbacks, such as it's incredibly boring to be alone all the time, which is why, you know, I also think it's better to have sex with less romance. And that's a perspective I started to adopt after I realized that it's hard to maintain this state of romance when you know, go into the bathroom and your partner took a shit before you. You know, the romance is just to get to know each other, but then you also have to realize, okay, this is just a fabrication, this will never last. And so, where are we trying to go with this relationship? You know, you don't know what I did last night. I wrote until, or I worked on my book until 4. And then I decided to sleep, and a part of me thought, you know, why are you sleeping now? And it's so strange because it's not just that I wake up and I love doing these things. You know, I thought about filming this and I hated it. And then I did it anyway, and then you ask yourself, why? Because what else is there to do? And because in a way it makes me feel closer to, right, my wife, who I still believe exists. I'm just so tired of this constant fight, you know, even if it's just happening in my mind, but whatever happens in your mind is just as real. You know, these accusations and all this nonsense, this ridiculous shadow play, this, you know, trying to run away from the love of your life and all that kind of shit. You know, okay, then run away. You know, I'm okay. You know, I'm gonna survive. I don't need you. You know? And that's a fact. You don't need anyone. But, you know, if people stop to remember you, then who are you? I mean, who is Son Goku to everyone else? If he stops fighting, then he's just the guy that used to fight. And then he starts being the guy that is being remembered, right? Because he's now in the afterlife. But, I mean, who was he? And who will he be? Well, you can never exist for eternity. You know, life is going to make sure of that. Because, you know, even if you're an author and you write books, I mean, how many years is this really going to last? Well, only until you, I mean, will no longer be remembered because everything you created passed away. You know, how long are they going to talk about Napoleon for? Who cares? Right? I mean, literally. Who cares who that guy was? What did he really do? I mean, he just found a place and then he created shit out of it. I mean, he created, I mean, who even knows that he found the place? You know, story writing is part of history. And if Napoleon was in the position of being powerful, then you can count on it. If he had the backup of a country, you could count on it that he just erased the fact that other people discovered it before him. Plus, they're acting like, I mean, what did he really discover? Because there were already people living there, which just shows to you he never discovered anything. You know, he was just an asshole who thought, you know, I can just claim this place, right? And maybe this is what you have to do with a woman, right? You just have to claim her. But I'm just reluctant to do so. You know, I refuse to simply go to a woman and say, you're going to be my wife now. Because I just think it's stupid. You know, I want a woman to do that with me. Because then I know she means business. Especially if I make it hard for her. And that's just what I feel. I mean, that's just what I think, feel, but also what I want. Right? I know I can be strong, and I can also be strong for a relationship, but in the end, what does it matter? You know, if your woman is weak, then you either have to really love her, you know, and be prepared to go all the way for her, like, oh, or you just say, no, fuck it. I know sex can be nice, but it can also be terrible. It can really be terrible. And what people also have to understand is that the barbarian lunatic, is also just a disguise. And so is this guy. I mean, I don't think a lot of people will, if you want to know the real me, I mean, I don't even know who I really am. I mean, I have ideas about how I could be simply because I have observed things about myself. But I also keep finding new things, which is why who I think I am is certainly not set in stone. It's highly flexible. And so, I can do this, but when the time comes, I can also do something else. And I think just when I think about it or I talk about it, why am I doing this now? Well, I ran out of joints. So I have to have other things that I can do. Okay, but how much of this can I do before? I mean, this apartment is almost done. And then you can say, well, done for what? Well, for whatever wants to come. And then you just have to see. But for now, there's just nothing here. And then the question is, of course, if a woman would come, would I even want her? Or would I just say, what are you doing here? Could you just leave, please? Because then I'm just gonna do the same thing she did. Well, I feel good here now. I don't need you. Okay. And then we're back in the game. And that's then also part of the chase. I think if you want your woman to be like a warrior, first of all, you have to be a warrior. And then you also have to make it hard. And I make it hard. For myself. Because I don't just buy this. No, I sit down here, I have to work with my insecurities. And I have to get shit done. And that's just what I do. I don't just buy curtains. I make them myself, and then, this room is a representation of myself. And I've been in Africa. And if I would have never been in Africa, I would have never done any of the things. But for some reason, it just turned out that way. And so I never decided to stay, for now. I just stayed. Because for some reason, there's always this bit of hope. But at the same time, I really want to leave. Or maybe I wanted to leave. But I'm still here. And I still don't know who is who in my life. I mean, okay, you know who your parents are. And you know who or were in terms of personality. Because they also keep changing. And so every time you meet someone, they're different. So maybe who you think your wife is someone else. And maybe, all of that. It's just so irrelevant. That's what I think. It's irrelevant what you think. Because in the end, it's what you do, what you feel, and what's happening. And what's happening is I'm alone in a room, and I'm recording videos, and at the same time I'm rendering them, and at the same time I'm gathering information for my book, because I'm now in a section called Patience, which is a part of the introduction. And every time I write into this book, I think, I should change it. I think I should, delete what I wrote and write something else. But then, because it's hard to express what's happening to me inside of me or whatever, it's really hard. And the reason it's hard is because, nobody can explain this. Nobody can explain this. If I ask other people, or I look at other people that are already married, how did they do it? I don't know, it just happened, did it? It just kind of happened, and then they made a choice. And nobody ever made that choice with me. Every woman either, left them or they left me. But in the end, I was alone. So I just said, okay, then I don't care. If all the women are pussies and none of them likes me enough to deal with it if I am having a bad day or a bad year, well, okay, then just stay away and be a pussy. And that's just all I think, right? And that's maybe then the ideas we have of relationships and marriages and women, right? Maybe it's supposed to be different, right? Maybe it's supposed to be really different. Maybe it's supposed to be like, well, kind of like vagabonds, right? A woman comes and maybe some women come and because you're a man, and then this woman just comes to have sex, and then, she leaves again and does her business in the world, and you're just like a, like a battery for them, right? You're like, they can come and talk to you, and maybe then you're your own version of Gandhi. Or maybe you're more like Osho. You just fuck around. And the question is, do you want that? Well, not really, because, I'm happy having no sexual diseases. And even if you think diseases do not exist, well, energy does. And if you sleep with women that just constantly change their sexual partners to have sex with men to make themselves feel better, then you have to be okay to also, dip into energies of various men, which then also means, well, how could this woman ever understand who she is if she keeps, just jumping from penis to penis? So, I just stay here. I try to be my own friend. Sometimes I really hate myself. And sometimes I really love myself. And what I really hate is this change. But what I also hate is if it's all the time the same. If I'm just happy all the time, then I could just leave. I think if I think like there's nothing else to do, then I'm just gonna leave. And at the moment, there is nothing else to do. This is what it has got to. That I sit here and do this. Just so ridiculous to me. How am I supposed to feel good about this? It's such bullshit. So I'm not really happy. I don't feel like this is really nice, but every time I wake up, I open my eyes, I don't know who I'm going to face. Who is this guy? Who sits here and talks about this? Why can't he just enjoy it? Why is he even talking? Couldn't he do it in silence? Well, apparently not. I start to pick up on some kind of Geist who's living within me and who's feeding me weird thoughts. I mean, I'm not just saying it's not violent thoughts. It's just like, as soon as you like doing something, there's a part that hates it. And then you have to push through the hate. And I always think, why? Can't you just sit there and do your damn job and just enjoy writing a book? And so if you talk about mentality of a warrior, I mean, that's the mentality of a warrior. Which means I have to capture everything. All the thoughts that occur while I'm writing. I just have to put it in there because it's the mentality of a warrior. And you cannot just express the mentality of a warrior just by saying, okay, what I could say is, just do it. That would be the entire book, just do it. I mean, what's your problem? Just do it. Just get shit done. Figure out what you want. But in order to say that to someone who has no idea what I'm talking about, or he, the author, you have to actually introduce them to the thoughts that you nourish in your mind and the ones that you get rid of. And then you could ask the question, which is valid, to say the least, why is this guy also recording it for YouTube? I don't know, man. I don't know. Am I how someone at the age of 34 is supposed to be? Who can tell me how I'm supposed to be? Can I go to someone and ask them, how am I supposed to be? And then they're going to say, well, just do this. Well, if you're that kind of person, well, all right. Then be that kind of person, right? Ask others how you're supposed to be. And then be like that. And then maybe, you feel satisfied with being like that. I could never do that. I hate asking others. If people want me to be a certain way, I'll probably just be different. If you look a bit too happy, I might just ruin that for you. I'm a kind of a prankster. I don't know, that's just the shadow. And I have a strong shadow. And certainly smoking tobacco nourishes that shadow. But in a way, it also helped me to fight. So how can I just dump on tobacco and the shadow and think it's all evil? Well, it's duality. And I'm starting to enjoy this kind of fight between I'm gonna destroy the whole world to, okay, somewhere in the middle. What's somewhere in the middle between I'm gonna love everyone, and be like a child? Or I'm gonna, take responsibility and start living my own life. Where's the balance between being an asshole and being a saint? Can you be a saintly asshole? Or is it impossible? I mean, where is the balance between insanity and sanity? Because often what drives me insane is trying to let go of all these concepts I have in my mind. And then you've got that child, that little Christopher inside of me that just, I don't understand. Why can't people be friends? And then the shadow comes and says, I don't know. Because times have changed. And they're always changing. But I also think it's always the same. I don't think anything ever changed. Because if you look at it, I mean, maybe the face has changed to some degree. And maybe the stage has changed. But the play is still the same. And that has never changed. Not once. There's always, even in the animal kingdom, there's probably animals that really love killing. And then there's probably animals that just I mean, everything just wants to keep itself alive, right? But there are animals that are assumed, that they take their own lives. But most of these animals have been filmed. It's just like a dolphin that just holds its breath underwater and just drowns. And I get it. Why would you want to hang around in an aquarium where you can just do nothing the entire day? And where you can never do what you want, but you have to just be a good pet. And that's literally what society does, right? You have to be a good pet, right? You have to be easy to handle. You have to stand in the line. You cannot just, jump ship. You're a part of this. And it's just such a drag to be a part of any of this. It's just what I feel. It's just such a drag. Life is a drag. Life is effort. It'll stop when I die. That's Jerry. And he's right. And that's just what you have to understand. It's just a part of the fight. That if you want to live, you have to fight. And if you stop fighting, then you're gonna die. And if you've got nothing to fight, like if you don't have a wife or children, such as I'm just saying it because it's the truth. Hey, what's this? Then what are you gonna do? Well, I realize if I don't do this, I'm gonna die. If I go and work for other people, they will never accept me the way I am. They will never accept me the way I am. And I had the opportunity to change my life and to work from my parents' home. So they allowed me to keep my child's room. And when they saw that I was, really fighting myself and ideas and concepts that were pushed upon me from the outside, including the ones from my own upbringing, which are the hardest to let go of because they are so far away. And, then you just say, okay, no time to dive. And so I dove, if that's the word, the past tense of dive, into myself to find who I lost along the way, or who I could be to walk the distance, because I realized if I try to live like other people, I am going to die. I'm just going to wither away because my spirit is free, or wants to be. And if I allow other people to kill me, sometimes there are weird sounds that I don't understand. Then I think, okay, maybe it's just something else. Sometimes it's like the middle of the night and you hear people running around in the building at 3 a.m. and you think, or 2 or something, and you think, who is this? Am I supposed to look? Is this happening within myself? Is this room even a room, or is it just myself? That's a scary thought. But I allow myself to have them, or to feel them, because there is no one else here. Nobody comes, nobody knocks, nobody calls. So, sure, I think it's just myself. All the time. Whoever I meet is just myself. And that certainly is weird. You can even scare people with these ideas, which is a nice pastime activity. But it's also annoying because, if you say these things and then people start to freak out, it's just annoying. Just get a grip on yourself. who cares if you're real? I mean, you're here and you have to deal with it. You know, what's even real? I mean, is Amazon real? No. They just want to sell stuff. And so they create a story that will get people to invest their energy into them. And that's all there is to it. You know, that's the whole society. You know, that's Germany. You just have to make sure that everyone believes that Germany exists so that we can keep it together and act like we give a shit. Have you ever seen anyone who really gives a shit? Well, I haven't. Because the only thing that I found that people give a shit about is how they feel. That's the women that I met, you know, they come when it pleases them. And when they don't want you, they send you away. Just like that. You know, the woman will have sex with you because she feels like it, not because you want it. That's just my perspective, okay? You don't have to adopt it. But it's a perspective, and that's what I've been shown by life many a time, not just once. You know, you meet someone and you have sex and then they go somewhere else and then you call them and you say, I miss you, and they say, oh, it is horrible. Why are you like this? Well, why did you want to have sex with me? Did you think I was someone else? You know, there's also a little kid inside of me, and you just treat me like shit. That's literally every woman. They just come when it pleases them, you know, but during times where you feel bad, they just stay away. You know, good luck ever having a marriage. Ever. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it like this. I don't know, I made a choice now. And I think it's okay. You know? And the choice is, I'm just gonna do it myself. You know? If there's no one here to do it with me, you know, why does it have to be like this? Okay, this has to change at some stage. But not yet. Also thought it was, now I'm so unhappy. I'm so unhappy. I know how to do it. I'm just gonna put it over. Of course, this could also be changed. Yeah, it doesn't really matter at this stage. Okay. This is just the first phase in my way of finding out who I'm gonna be as a man, right? Who I'm going to be as a man. And the battery is about to go out. 0%. 1%. Well, maybe it's gonna keep going for some time. I mean, you've seen this thing now. I can just show you. So this is a half now. The only thing that basically changed is... Okay, I'm just reluctant to give in, which is why I'm going to finish this. I have to say, it's not that I like finishing this, it's just that I acknowledge that I can finish it, and so I'm finishing it. I never like what I'm doing when I'm doing it. I mean, there are times where I like that I'm doing it, but that always shifts. I'm always trapped between love and hate. I'm always trapped between love and hate. Always. And then it's just a question of what you are going to invest it in. And that's all that matters in the end. You know, in the end, it's a question of what do you choose? Because if it's for children, I mean, just imagine, you know, you're now with a woman and it starts with love, and then you have children and suddenly it's only hate. I mean, that's just a terrible place for a child. I mean, do trees hate the saplings? You know what I mean? I suppose not. But the whole world is just full of hate. So there's an imbalance already. Which then means that in order to change this, you know, somebody has to start. And I don't want to be a mere copy of other men. You know, I want to be the kind of man that I want to be, or even that I can be. And if that takes this and turns it into whatever, a curtain, well, so be it then. Different times, I think a good man knows how to keep himself from killing himself. I think a good man needs to know how to provide for himself. And, well, these days are simply strange because, you know, you cannot just provide for yourself. No. I mean, you have to own the place, right? I mean, you have to buy the land. And when you have bought the land or the house, you know, then you could, or you have to rent it. And then you can make your own food. Well, that's just the way it is. Different times, right? People like their comfort. People like being ignorant, right? It's that guy from the Matrix that says, ignorance is bliss. Yeah, it also turns you into an idiot. Which is the entire society, because if we're still ignorant about why, you know, climate change is happening. Yeah, it's the CO2, yeah, right. Don't look at the forests, you know, as long as we're still busy cutting them down. Don't look ever at the forests, but there's also people that replant forests. So we know it's possible. And we know it has been done. But most of the places where forests were are now occupied by farmland, are now occupied by plantations, which is still farmland, which are occupied by cattle ranches and cities. And, you know, I don't know about wherever you are, but where I live, you know, they're still building houses. Because everybody wants their own house. And I'm not sure why that is. Okay, now Germany has been growing, or so they say. Well, it appears to be. A lot of refugees came here, or settlers, as I like to call them. They're just settlers. They're just looking for a reason. I mean, if your place is shit, you go somewhere else. You know? And then you say, but we've got boundaries and borders. You cannot just come here. You need a certificate. Yeah. How many borders can you really control? There's always a way if you want to, right? How many cars can you really check? You know, maybe people were just coming and they were just acting like we're allowing them to come because of the war that you funded. You funded it, or so it appears. And now there are problems and you don't want to take care of it, you know. Well, tough. Who's gonna take care of it then? So now people are in Germany, right? Everybody always says, I'm not a racist, but everybody I meet is a racist. Everybody. Because that's already seeing races, that's already being racism. And that's basically what science does. It just looks at the differences and it's trying to find, you know, are we really animals? Hey, we come from a shrew. Yeah, right. Build yourself a shrine, please. Because humans are whatever they are. It's just an entity. It's just something that's alive. You know, I don't have to get credit for being able to make toilet paper so I can wipe my ass to take a shit. I mean, what kind of an invention is this? I mean, it's useless junk. People used to take leaves or just water. Or maybe, you know, I don't know how they used to do it. You know, they didn't have soap. Did they go and wash before having sex? Or did they just acknowledge that the body may stink? But if we all smell the same, I mean, you know, what makes a savage? You know? Because the idea people have of a savage is they kind of live in nature, they're unclean, but, you know, their thoughts are clean. But people who live in cities have really dirty thoughts. And cities are really dirty. They just try to hide it. Right? I mean, it's just toxic. People are toxic. Their mentalities are toxic. Their emotions are toxic. Everything is toxic. And their bodies are toxic. Which is why I find it important to cleanse occasionally. Or to once in a while spend a day without having breakfast just to learn to deal without food for some time. And that's a challenge. And then people say, I'm hangry. And I say, I think you're weak. If you can't manage without food for half a day, then you're weak. You know, I don't plan these things. You know, if I don't feel like eating, then I just don't eat. But I had to get used to this. I mean, they call it intermittent fasting. It's just, you know, that's why I like Terence McKenna. You know, he says, if I do mushrooms, you know, what you do is, you know, I don't know, for 6 hours or something before, you don't eat. And then he says, you know, I don't call that fasting. I just call it emptying your stomach. And I like that, you know. You don't always have to make things sound really fancy. Yeah, I'm fasting. You could also just say, yeah, I'm not eating. You know, have you ever tried not eating in a family environment where there's like mothers and fathers and like siblings and it's like, you know, I have the feeling you're not eating. Yeah, I was trying to fast. Oh, but is that good? And they're immediately on your back. You know, I don't really pay attention to how much people eat. Why do people look at how much you eat? I mean, what's the matter? I met people who barely ate anything. I mean, I can't say they were really happy. I mean, there was somebody who hated people. I mean, I understand that. He hated people who felt weak when they didn't eat. And he was quite strong. I mean, he led an active life. But people were also constantly on his back. So I would say he was strong in some sense, but weak in another sense. Right? Like he had this like overpowering wife, or has her still, that was kind of keeping him, I don't know, trapped or something. But apparently she managed to hold on to him. They had children, the whole thing. I mean, could I say now he was happy? You know, who was taking care of who? Because he was still there. And then he was smoking cannabis every day, a lot. It was part of his routine. And then they moved to another country and then he couldn't do it anymore. You know, is that the way to deal with men? To just overpower them and just take everything away that they like because you think it ought to be different? I mean, what's a nice wife? I think a nice wife is a woman that, you know, okay, now you have to see the difference. I'm just talking for a nice wife for myself. It would be someone who sees what I do and who supports me in it. And who doesn't talk behind my back about me, you know, and who doesn't, you know, that we also kind of agree with each other. That she knows, you know, I think my husband knows what's good. Because I chose him to be my husband. Do you get what that means? It means that if you're in a marriage, you know, these women exist. That this woman would kind of serve you, but not like a servant, but more like, you know, she takes care also of the marriage and of you as a husband because you keep her safe from her own madness and from, you know, men that run away from her because you're there, right? Maybe that's what Beth says. Well, the difference is you're still here. Yeah, but why are they fighting then? You know, why doesn't Beth just sleep with her husband more? Why don't they connect in such a way? Well, because her husband is, in fact, an idiot. But I think I like him because if it's just looking at the character, because people like Jerry exist, I mean, that's just a fact. But if it comes to it, I mean, he's the man. But if you have women like, you see, that's the problem, right? If Beth would have just, okay, maybe she should have had, okay, so she's a horse surgeon, right? Maybe that's the whole problem with, you know, women that want to be powerful or something. I don't know, right? It's hard to say. I cannot say that I find women who are in leading positions and who think they're really awesome. You know, I cannot say I like them very much. I cannot say that I like women who think they know better, because I haven't met a woman that I really trusted enough to think, well, I think she knows better. To me, most people are kind of idiots, and that's just a fact, right? To me, most people are just kind of idiots that just run around like, I'm the best there is, you know? And when they fail, they just act like they didn't, right? And then you catch people at being afraid, and then you say, it looks like fear to me, and then, you know, they come back to you 5 minutes later and they say something like, oh, but I wasn't afraid. Oh, what was it then? You know, why would you? Right? I mean, if you weren't afraid to die, why would you go to the doctor? Right? And if you weren't ignorant about how to heal yourself, Why would you go to a doctor? I mean, at least you should try, but if you've never even tried, then you're just an idiot to me. And I mean, I meet people who have, their whole body is swollen with sickness, swollen with laziness and ignorance, swollen with false pride, and maybe I want to talk a bit about positions and how people stand, and maybe you can learn something from that. Like, I'm conscious about how I present myself. I don't record this before I feel like recording it. I may hate the fact that I will record it, but, I still feel like I want to record this and I need to record this, and then I wait until I have prepared myself enough, and then I'm going to record it. Of course, maybe that has changed, but actually I have done it. Of course, I have shown also sometimes. But, if you're a YouTube content creator, you cannot just be full of hate, and then I cannot just sit here and gossip about everyone. I mean, I can talk about these things, but if there's nothing to learn, then it's going to be useless junk and I'm going to be banned, which is something that is always, that option always exists. So if you just sit around and you just hate life and yourself and you just talk about it in a very disgusting way, you talk about your plans to destroy others, then yeah, you're probably gonna be banned. And that's then all there is to it. A man has to know how to, if your wife comes and she threatens you with divorce, you can be like Jerry and look towards her for guidance and say, do you really want to leave me? Or you just say, what the fuck are you talking about, woman? You want a divorce? And then she's just gonna go nuts and just throw a tantrum. And you maybe just let her blow off some steam. And you just love her for whatever emotion is driving her. And maybe you just put on some music and just start dancing or something, right? Maybe that's why she feels like this. And maybe that's why she came to you, because she wanted somebody that could guide her through those spasms of fear. Because, let's face it, if everybody knew how to deal with their fear because they were trained by their parents, then nobody in their right mind would go on a shopping spree for Christmas to forget how awful things are because they have money to spend it on junk. The only reason people buy all these presents is because they want to, feel appreciated and, be loved and liked by everyone. I stopped giving presents to people, but some people still gave presents to me, which, I found weird. I even said I don't want presents, and I still got them. That's then family, right? And then you can hate that, and you can sit around and say, I hate my family because they eat meat and I'm a vegan. I just let go of that. I just said, you know what? I think to me at this stage, it's much easier to just blend in a little. Because, I can be a vegan when I'm alone, but I can also, I started eating sausage again and cheese. And, is that good? Is that bad? Do I like this? It's always this Adolf Linkler. It always comes back when do you like this? Genius, it's such a genius. And if I wouldn't have done this kind of work today, then I also wouldn't have sang now. I mean, the kind of stuff that I have to do in order to get to the place where I actually feel like singing just for myself and then feel awkward. So awkward indeed. And then you sing in the presence of others and then they're like, they try to look down on you because they hate your happiness and they hate the fact that you have kind of a good voice. And why do you have kind of a good voice? Because you've actually trained it and you've talked a lot. I mean, the reason I have a strong voice is because I used it a lot. But I also paid attention. So, I mean, you've got a podcast. I heard myself speak and then I can make adjustments. And when I have a lisp, I can start to work with that. I mean, there are people who are stutterers and they just started to draw out. Whenever there was a stutter coming, instead of getting stuck, they just said, so if you are stuttering and you speak like, so I was doing this, then you say, I was you stretch it out. And that's then the transition to, I have a stutter. And I realize also when I'm stuttering. There are certain moments where I stutter. Because maybe there was somebody I met and he was always stuttering in the presence of women. Attractive women, probably. And that's then nervousness. Energy starts to flow. And he probably judges it. Oh God, is she going to see that I like her? And then, of course, his experiences with women are very important to understand why he had to stutter. But he realized himself. So when there was a woman around, he would start to stutter. I sometimes have something where my tongue just gets in between or... and then I can think, oh, what will people think of me? But if you stutter, then you stutter and then you can work with that. You don't have to have surgery. You don't have to have your penis removed just because you think, oh, schon wieder. Just because you think, you feel like a woman. I mean, you can talk yourself into feeling like a woman. You can even talk yourself into being gay just because you don't look like other men. But then the question you have to ask yourself is that just what people want to make you feel like? And, do you want a natural family? Do you like nature? Do you like nature and the idea of having your own family? Well, then I would not, dig into shit. That's just how it is. You want to have family, better not have shit on your penis. Better keep it clean, Probably even better, just wait for a woman. And just, until then, you just prepare yourself to be a man. I mean, I was watching Back to the Future. Not the entire movie, I just watched parts of it. I'm gonna watch the rest. Always, if it's like a whole movie, I probably watch half an hour and then I get bored and then I do something else. It's just something to transition from doing one thing, feeling like I'm getting a bit of a timeout, and then transitioning to something else. Plus, while I'm smoking, because I always have just phases where I smoke cannabis or whatever, it's just a phase where I'm smoking. And then when I'm smoking, it's very hard to read anything. because you're just too open. And maybe I'm just too open in general, or I'm just open. You know, what's too open? What's too masculine? What's too feminine? I mean, it's also what you want to nourish in yourself. So I could do this and be like really feminine. I mean, there were times where I wanted to put like shadow under my eyes. I mean, there are men who do this. And they can sell it as masculine. I have problems with that. But I do like it. Because I've got blue eyes. It's nice to... But if I do it, you know, do I have to feel gay? Or is that part of marking yourself as some kind of warrior? I'm not quite sure about it. So it is me who has to decide who I need to be as a man to basically, you know, pay attention to myself also. And that's really hard. Because if I would bring other men in here, they would probably say something about my curtains. Which is why I have no real desire to do that. Which, you know, I don't know. I just have the feeling, you know, if I have friends, I feel like I'm gay. That's just how it is. Or maybe men are gay. I don't know. Men have weird thoughts. I just want to encourage men to spend time on their own so that they can stop. Because the majority of people that you will meet at your workplace or anywhere else is going to be confused. And it's the minority of people that knows who they are, that feel good about themselves, and that do not push all their negative emotions. You can call them negative, of course. I just try to see them as something that I can work with. You know, everybody I meet just pushes all their, you know, negative feelings onto others. And I happen to think that, you know, I can be better off than having people around me because I think I need friends. And then you can say, well, isn't that kind of a lonely life? Well, not if you... I mean, come on. How likely is it that if I'm so out in the open as I am, how likely is it that there would never be a woman that would say, hey, that's a nice man? But of course, you first have to also build trust. So, to me, it is somewhat irrelevant whether I have met her already or not. You know, that's the part of me that just says, I don't give a shit. I know at some stage I think there's going to be someone. And I also think if I meet her, because I know how much I've cleansed myself, so there's not even an option to use a condom. Because once it's there, it's going to be family. And not just screwing around or making sure or waiting or whatever. You know, that's just my perspective. Okay, now I have to see which way around. Okay. It certainly is an interesting concept. Okay. And maybe it is a lot of pressure because I have a lot of expectations on women. lot of expectations. And that's just because I believe that people can be better if they work on it. Right? I just believe that it's possible to transform yourself. And that's just hey! Is this nice or what? Okay, this still probably has to change a little. Now I have to get used to it, okay? You know, nothing's set in stone. For now, that's just a barrier against the cold. Okay, now I'm actually glad I did this. This is so much better. Dun, dun. So you can see. Hey, I already made some tea. Would you like some tea? You see, now I can still put this here. Okay, it's just simple. Okay? You know, what's perfect, it is the way that it is. It's a barrier. And I don't have to be afraid that there's like openings here. It was fast. And it serves its purpose, right? It's a barrier. There's also warm air is on top, right? So the hot air rises above, and then it keeps this here warm, and this is just going to be cold. Okay, if I can maintain this during the winter is hard to say. Now I'm just going to give you the first-hand experience. Let's have a look how it feels. Reusch! And suddenly you're in here. You know, a completely different experience. And this is how it looks from here. Okay, this is still just in general, I mean, going to change. I also made sure that this, you know, I didn't put this here for a reason. I mean, it does look nice, doesn't it? Okay, this, I know I still will change it, but I need more screws for the other side. And then let's just see how this is gonna look. Oh, yeah, nice, right? I mean, and then you're in here. And that's all that it is, right? Of course, I could move this here, but for now, I'm just gonna leave it. Okay, now it's time to let go of this camera. And